The 7 levels of comic anti-heroes explained. Level 1, the reluctant hero. Not all anti-heroes begin their stories with the desire to save the world or uphold justice. Some would rather live in peace, seek solitude, or avoid responsibility entirely. Yet circumstances, fate, trauma, or sheer bad luck pull them into situations where they are forced to act. These are the reluctant heroes, characters who embody cynicism, self-interest, or apathy, but who ultimately cannot ignore injustice when it confronts them directly. Wolverine Logan is one of the clearest examples of the reluctant hero archetype. A mutant with an adamantium skeleton, retractable claws, and a healing factor, Wolverine is nearly indestructible. Despite this, he craves solitude more than companionship. He's a drifter, a brawler, and a man who would rather drown his pain in alcohol than lead a heroic crusade. Yet time and again, he is pulled into battles against his will, most famously as a member of the X-Men. His reluctance is central to his character. He doesn't believe in dreams of peace and unity like Professor Xavier, but he fights because he knows mutants and humans need protection from greater threats. Wolverine represents the anti-hero whose heroism is reluctant and begrudging, but all the more authentic because of it. Green Arrow. Oliver Queen begins as a shallow, spoiled billionaire playboy with no interest in helping anyone but himself. His transformation comes when he is stranded on a deserted island, forced to hone his survival skills and his marksmanship with a bow. This crucible strips away his arrogance and forces him to confront his selfishness. When he returns to civilization, he finds himself in a world where inequality, corruption, and injustice are rampant. Though reluctant to play the role of a superhero at first, his experiences compel him to take up the mantle of Green Arrow. Unlike Superman or Batman, Oliver never sought greatness. He stumbled into it. His story highlights how reluctant heroes often grow into something larger than themselves, despite their initial resistance. Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones represents a modern, grounded version of the reluctant hero. Once a teenage superhero, her early career ended in trauma and disillusionment after her mind was broken by the villain Kilgrave. She abandoned the costumed life, retreating into a career as a private investigator. Jessica doesn't want to be a superhero. She actively avoids it. She smokes, drinks, and hides behind sarcasm and apathy. Yet when she sees others victimized, her conscience forces her to act. She fights not because she wants to, but because she can't stand to watch injustice go unchecked. Jessica embodies the reluctant, traumatized protector, someone who resists heroism but proves her worth through her actions. Level 2, the flawed hero. If the reluctant hero is someone dragged into the role against their will, the flawed hero is someone who chooses to fight for good but is constantly undone by their own inner demons. These characters often want to save the world, but their trauma, addictions, or obsessions make them unstable. Unlike Superman's unwavering optimism or Captain America's moral certainty, flawed heroes are painfully human. They succeed not because they are pure, but because they keep going despite their weaknesses. Iron Man. Tony Stark is one of Marvel's most iconic flawed heroes. A billionaire genius inventor, Stark initially built his fortune on weapons manufacturing, profiting from war and destruction. When he is injured and forced to build the first Iron Man armor to save his life, he realizes the consequences of his legacy, but escaping it is never easy. Tony's brilliance makes him a great hero, but his arrogance and recklessness make him a danger to himself and others. He struggles with alcoholism, most famously in the Demon in a Bottle storyline, which reflects his inability to cope with trauma and responsibility. His attempts to control everything from building world-spanning defense systems to creating safeguards against other heroes often backfire spectacularly. Iron Man is an anti-hero not because he doesn't want to do good, but because his ego and addictions often corrupt his choices. He is the hero who fights external villains while wrestling with his own worst impulses. Batman is often celebrated as one of DC's greatest heroes. But peel back the myth, and he is an anti-hero defined by obsession. Bruce Wayne could have lived his life as a billionaire philanthropist, but instead he built a crusade of fear and violence to avenge his parents' murder. His methods are brutal. He terrorizes criminals, manipulates allies, and uses paranoia as a weapon. Bruce's biggest flaw is his obsession. He cannot stop, cannot rest, cannot move on. His trauma has become his identity, and in many ways, he is addicted to it. Unlike Superman, who inspires hope, Batman inspires fear. His refusal to kill makes him morally distinct, but his violence and manipulation make him a deeply flawed protector. Batman embodies the flawed hero because his war on crime is as much about his own pain as it is about Gotham. He saves the city, yes, but he is also a prisoner of his trauma. Moon Knight, Mark Spector takes the idea of the flawed hero to extremes. Once a mercenary, he is resurrected by the Egyptian god Khonshu and becomes Moon Knight, his avatar on Earth. But Mark suffers from dissociative identity disorder, splitting his mind into multiple personas. The mercenary, the cab driver, the playboy, and the caped vigilante. These fractured identities make him erratic and unstable. At times, his allies question whether Khonshu is real or simply another delusion. Yet Mark continues to fight crime with brutal efficiency, often pushing himself into physical and psychological ruin. Moon Knight is one of Marvel's darkest anti-heroes, because his greatest enemy is not the criminals he fights, but his own mind. His flaws make him unreliable, dangerous, and tragic, but they also make his victories deeply meaningful. Level 3, the Vigilante. The Vigilante operates in the shadows outside of the law and often in direct defiance of it. Unlike traditional superheroes who work alongside police or governments, vigilantes reject those systems as corrupt, inefficient, or too slow to deliver real justice. They believe in fear, intimidation, and violence as their primary tools. Daredevil's Matt Murdock is both lawyer and vigilante, and his duality makes him one of Marvel's most fascinating anti-heroes. By day, he tries to uphold justice in the courtroom, fighting for the rule of law. By night, as Daredevil, he dons the mask and beats criminals into submission in Hell's Kitchen. Daredevil's methods are brutal. He uses fear and violence as much as Batman does, and at times his rage blinds him. But what makes him compelling is his Catholic faith. He is constantly torn between his desire to punish criminals and his guilt for crossing moral lines. This creates a character who embodies the internal war between law, faith, and vengeance. Huntress Helena Bertinelli, often portrayed as the daughter of a murdered mafia family, channels her trauma into her role as Gotham's vigilante. Unlike Batman, she doesn't have a no-kill rule as strict as his, and she often comes far closer to lethal force in her pursuit of justice. Huntress is defined by her ruthlessness. She doesn't hold back her anger, and her methods often alienate her from Gotham's other heroes. Yet her sense of justice is real. She fights for the innocent even if she rejects Batman's obsession with restraint. This makes her one of Gotham's darkest yet most relatable anti-heroes, someone who knows that justice isn't always clean. The question. Vic Sage takes the vigilante archetype to its most uncompromising form. With his faceless mask and paranoia-fueled investigations, the question dives deep into corruption, conspiracy, and crime. Unlike Batman or Daredevil, who hold to a semblance of moral lines, the question often embraces brutal pragmatism. He is willing to use extreme intimidation and bloody violence to extract the truth. His morality is shaped less by ideals and more by his obsessive belief that corruption must be torn out by any means necessary. The question represents the vigilante stripped of symbolism. No bat, no devil, no flashy persona. Just a faceless man willing to get his hands dirty in pursuit of answers. Level 4. The Lethal Protector. Up until now, most anti-heroes have stopped short of outright execution. But at this tier, restraint is abandoned. These characters fully embrace killing as justice. To them, death is not a failure. It's the most efficient solution. They are the ones who look at the revolving doors of prisons, corrupt systems, and villains who never stay gone and decide, enough is enough. The Punisher, Frank Castle, is the definitive lethal protector. After his wife and children were murdered in a mob hit, Castle declared a one-man war on crime. Armed with military training, an arsenal of weapons, and a relentless will, the Punisher has executed thousands of criminals across the Marvel Universe. What makes Castle compelling is that he has no illusions about being a hero. He doesn't wear a mask to inspire hope. He wears the skull to inspire fear. He doesn't capture criminals. He kills them. His crusade is not justice as society defines it, but revenge elevated into a mission. Other heroes see him as a dangerous fanatic, but to victims of crime, he is vengeance personified. The Punisher embodies the question, if the system cannot protect the innocent, does killing the guilty become justified? Red Hood Jason Todd, the second Robin, was brutally murdered by the Joker and later resurrected. His return marked a turning point. Unlike Batman, Jason no longer believed in redemption. He saw Gotham's endless cycle of violence and decided that only permanent solutions could break it. As the Red Hood, Jason became a lethal vigilante, targeting crime bosses, drug dealers, and even the Joker himself. His relationship with Batman is one of the most painful in DC. He embodies everything Bruce fears. That killing is the only way to end Gotham's madness. Yet Jason's actions also expose the hypocrisy of Batman's no-kill code, forcing the question of whether restraint actually saves lives or prolongs suffering. Red Hood shows that the line between hero and villain is sometimes only a matter of how far one is willing to go. Ghost Rider. Unlike Castle or Jason Todd, Ghost Rider's mission isn't personal vengeance. It's supernatural judgment. When Johnny Blaze bonded with the spirit of vengeance, he became a demonic anti-hero wielding hellfire, a flaming chain, and the dreaded penance stare, which forces sinners to experience all the pain they've inflicted on others. Ghost Rider doesn't operate like a human vigilante. He doesn't capture criminals or scare them. He condemns them. To the innocent, he is a terrifying savior. To the guilty, he is a literal demon of punishment. His morality is alien, almost biblical, but it places him firmly in the lethal protector category. He delivers justice through fire and damnation. Level 5. The Anti-Villain. Unlike the lethal protector who kills in the name of justice, the anti-villain occupies an even murkier space. They are characters whose goals are noble or sympathetic, but whose methods are extreme, illegal, or destructive. Unlike traditional villains, they are not motivated purely by greed, cruelty, or chaos. Instead, they believe they are fighting for a just cause. Magneto. Magneto is perhaps the most iconic anti-villain in all of comics. A Holocaust survivor, Eric Lensherr grew up seeing firsthand the horrors of human prejudice. His mission is simple: to ensure that mutants, marginalized and persecuted people, will never again suffer genocide. On paper, his cause is righteous. He fights for mutant freedom and survival. Yet his methods are often ruthless: terrorism, mass murder, and declarations of war against humanity. Magneto is not cruel for cruelty's sake. He is a man scarred by history, determined to do whatever it takes to protect his people. His conflict with the X-Men is not just about ideology, but about morality. Professor X believes in coexistence, while Magneto believes only domination or separation can save mutants. This makes Magneto a tragic anti-hero, both a villain and a freedom fighter, depending on perspective. Catwoman. Selina Kyle is a master thief who has often lived outside the law. Unlike most Gotham villains, she doesn't crave power, chaos, or domination. Instead, her motivations are often rooted in survival, independence, or defending the powerless. At times, she is Batman's enemy, breaking into vaults and stealing from Gotham's elite. At other times, she is his ally, helping him protect the innocent from greater threats. Her morality is fluid. She is not driven by greed so much as a desire for freedom, and her crimes often target the corrupt or the wealthy. Catwoman embodies the anti-villain because she is never fully one thing. Not hero, not villain. Her actions blur the line between selfishness and heroism, making her one of Gotham's most enduring wildcards. Namor. The Submariner is another classic anti-villain. As King of Atlantis, Namor's loyalty is to his people above all else. He is proud, arrogant, and often hostile to the surface world. But his actions come from a place of duty. If the surface pollutes the oceans, exploits resources, or threatens Atlantis, Namor does not hesitate to retaliate with war. In his own eyes, he is a hero protecting his kingdom. But to humanity, he is often a dangerous enemy who floods cities, attacks governments, and treats the surface as expendable. His nobility is undeniable, but so is his brutality. Namor illustrates how perspective defines morality. To Atlantis, he is a savior. To Earth, he is a menace. Level 6. The Monster Hero. The monster hero is defined by fear. These are beings whose appearance, power, or methods make them terrifying to ordinary people, even to other heroes. They are hunted, hated, and misunderstood. Yet beneath the monstrous exterior lies a protector, someone who ultimately fights for good, though often in ways that alienate them from society. Venom began as one of Spider-Man's greatest enemies, but over time evolved into one of Marvel's most iconic anti-heroes. The symbiote amplifies Eddie Brock's rage and aggression, making him violent, savage, and unpredictable. Yet together, Brock and the symbiote develop a moral code. They protect innocents but destroy those they deem guilty. As the lethal protector, Venom has battled both street-level criminals and cosmic threats. His methods are brutal, biting, maiming, and outright devouring enemies. His monstrous appearance with fangs and tendrils makes him the stuff of nightmares. Yet beneath it all, Venom is protective and loyal, fighting for justice in his own terrifying way. Venom embodies the monster hero as a figure feared by society, but ultimately driven by a fierce, if warped, sense of right and wrong. Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is the elemental guardian of nature, a being who was once human but is now something beyond. Alec Holland, transformed into a plant creature, protects the green, the collective consciousness of all plant life on Earth. His appearance is monstrous, his powers alien, and his morality often incomprehensible to humanity. Unlike superheroes who protect people, Swamp Thing's mission is to protect nature itself, which can sometimes put him at odds with humans. He can manipulate plant life, regenerate from destruction, and even reshape the natural world. To humans, he may appear as a monster lurking in swamps, but in truth, he is Earth's most faithful defender. Swamp Thing represents the anti-hero who is more than human, one whose monstrous form masks a purpose greater than human morality. The Hulk, Bruce Banner, and the Hulk are perhaps the most famous example of the monster hero archetype. Banner is a brilliant scientist, but his gamma-fueled alter ego is a towering brute defined by rage. To the public, Hulk is a monster, uncontrollable, destructive, and terrifying. To his allies, he is both a blessing and a curse, a weapon that can save worlds but also destroy them. At his core, Hulk is misunderstood. He wants peace, but his anger and the fear it inspires in others isolates him. In his more dangerous incarnations like Worldbreaker Hulk, he is feared as an extinction-level threat. Yet more often than not, Hulk's fury is directed at villains, invaders, or threats far greater than himself. Hulk is the quintessential tragic monster, feared as a destroyer, but deep down, fighting to be a hero. Level 7. The Chaotic Force. Unlike the other anti-heroes we've examined who at least follow some kind of code or principle, the Chaotic Force is unpredictable. These are characters who defy categories of hero or villain one day. They might save a city. The next they might burn it down. Not out of malice, but because chaos is their nature. Deadpool, Wade Wilson, the merc with a mouth, is the ultimate chaotic anti-hero. A mercenary gifted with a healing factor, Deadpool is nearly unkillable, which makes him reckless, violent, and utterly insane. What truly sets him apart is his meta-awareness. Deadpool knows he's a comic book character, breaking the fourth wall, mocking tropes, and rewriting his own narrative. Sometimes Deadpool fights for money. Sometimes he fights for love or friendship. Sometimes he fights simply because it amuses him. His morality swings wildly, and while he occasionally plays the hero, he often causes as much destruction as he prevents. His chaos is what makes him unique. He embodies the absurdity of comics themselves. Deadpool is the clown prince of chaos, but unlike the Joker, his chaos leans toward humor and reluctant heroism rather than nihilistic evil. Lobo. If Deadpool is Marvel's chaotic mercenary, Lobo is DC's. An intergalactic bounty hunter, Lobo is known as the Main Man, a hyper-violent, cigar-smoking space biker who gleefully kills for fun and profit. He is virtually indestructible, strong enough to go toe-to-toe with Superman, and so durable that he often laughs his way through battles. What makes Lobo a chaotic force is that his only real loyalty is to himself. He'll work for villains, heroes, or anyone with the right price. Sometimes he saves the day, usually by accident. Sometimes he destroys planets, often on purpose. His anarchy isn't rooted in justice or vengeance, but in sheer enjoyment of violence and rebellion. Lobo is the satire of machismo and brutality, a living parody of the over-the-top anti-hero archetype, yet powerful enough to justify his absurd persona. Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn began as the Joker's sidekick and lover, but she has since grown into one of DC's most unpredictable anti-heroes. Her morality shifts constantly. Sometimes she's a villain aiding chaos and crime, other times she's a vigilante or reluctant hero fighting alongside the Bat Family or the Suicide Squad. Harley's chaos is fueled by her unstable personality and her refusal to be tied down to rules or labels. She is playful, violent, compassionate, and cruel, sometimes all at once. What makes her fascinating is her emotional unpredictability. Harley follows her heart no matter where it leads, which can result in selfless heroism or reckless destruction. Harley Quinn embodies the chaotic force as someone who cannot be boxed in. She is not simply Joker's shadow. She is her own storm of madness and freedom, as likely to save Gotham as she is to set it on fire.